Hello everyone. So today I'm going to be continuing with this picture of part of the Ghent altarpiece. This is by Jan van Eyck, and I have gotten pretty far along with this. Obviously the original is far more detailed even to what I've got right here, but we're just going to proceed with this and see how far we can get. Most of what I want to do today is I want to glaze, put a second glaze over some of these jewels, refine them a little bit, put some highlights on to make them really start to pop. He was known for his glazing, so even though I've got some blue and such here, it doesn't have the depth quite yet of what the original has. So we'll go ahead and refine some of those and see how far we get. The panel that I've got going on here is 6 inches by 8 inches, so all of this is being squeezed into quite a small space. So we are kind of working in miniature at this point. And I do want this to be an almost black down in the depths of this jewel here. So we'll go ahead and really increase the dark for that. I want to keep it kind of a glaze. So we're going for a very subtle. So I'm putting a little on, but then I'm also taking some off to get the glaze that I want. It's just enough to get a little bit of that color on there. When I'm glazing, I usually have 2 brushes active. One that actually has the paint on it, and the other one that is mostly dry. And this is for pushing the paint around once I've got some paint on there. So I'm just adding a little bit of paint, but also taking some of it back off. All right. Okay. So looking at the original, the jewels have a variety of different highlights on them, and also the clasps that are holding the jewels. I need to add all of that details. Now, they would have been using, obviously they're using a lead white, which I'm not using today. Probably also a lead tin yellow for some of the gold. But I will be substituting that with probably a cadmium yellow, cadmium lemon, and I have a flake white replacement from Gamblin that I have been enjoying, so that's that. All right. So the trick is to make up this really light, kind of lemony yellow, and then add highlights to that later on. And I am looking for a very tiny brush. This is Winsor Newton Scepter Gold, and the point is like that. There you go. Okay. So this one, I kind of keep these in stock. I do treat my tiny brushes as kind of expendable because there are so few here. You are going to kind of go through them. But in any case, that's what I'll be using for a lot of the tinies. And so now I want to mix up that lemon yellow. I've mentioned before about my mixing plate here. It's really just a mess of color, and that's okay. It's really just to kind of get the color mixed up. But I'm pulling the color out of my my box here. It has the different tones in it. All right, so I've got that lemon yellow. And for this, for any highlights, I want to apply it pretty thick. So I'm going to go ahead, and again, I've got that really tiny brush that I've got. And we're just going to go through and look for what the clasps look like on these jewels. These don't have to be very fancy. It's all going to disappear into the picture anyways. All right, it's really just where the lights are hitting. And this one's kind of cool because it's got the kind of like a trio of little highlights down here. Now I probably could go back in with these green and make them a little bit more dense. I might want to do that before I do anything else. So let me actually go ahead. I'm gonna get some sap green. Any colors that I'm referencing, basically, it's the closest color I can come up with. They would have had sap green, etc. I'm kind of guessing on some of these, but we'll just run with that. So I've got some sap green. I added a little bit of black to it just to kind of give it some dark. And let's see how this goes. Anytime you're dealing with a jewel or something, you're looking for this really deep tone in the middle of it that will counteract with any of the highlights that you put on. So I'm kind of pushing the darks here, and then I will be adding some of the highlights to the top of the jewel as well. And just like I mentioned before, I want to use a secondary brush to kind of smudge it and just get a little bit of a glaze. A little bit of glaze going on there. All right. All right, so at this point, I'm going to go back to the highlights that I was working on before. And I apologize for any shaking. I've got a studio assistant with me right now. There he is. Okay. So he is helping me with the painting right now. All right. So again, going back in to the jewels and how they are held in these positions. Apologize for any interference with the mic. I've got a cat on my lap as I'm doing this. Now in these green ones, there's almost like a yellow tinge at the very base. So I'm going to go ahead and just kind of emphasize that just a little bit, just to kind of give it that sense that the jewel has a little bit of yellow going on it. Okay. It's where the light's catching. I have a cat that really wants attention right now. And just adding a little bit of this. The same yellow color, it's just to help increase the reflectivity, refractivity of the jewel here. So I don't know if you can see this, but I've got this cat that's just obsessing over wanting to be part of this. So I'm going to be painting with a cat on my lap. There he is. This is Ming. And he's going to help me paint Ghent Altarpiece. All right, let's continue with painting. He's just going to sit there for a while I paint. And I'm using really minuscule amounts of paint at this point. Just enough to add the highlights. You can see it really doesn't require a whole lot. It's just a little bit enough to give it that sense that there's light passing through it. If I find that any of these are too bright, I can always go back in later on and tone them down. Yeah, blue is going to require more of a whiter highlight on the jewels, so I'll come back a little bit later on and finish that up. And jewels in this time really didn't have a lot of the facets that we're used to. They were more smooth, polished, rounded, and so that's what we're going to see in most of these. When you're doing fine detail work, you do want to kind of have your hand balanced. So usually what I'll do is you can use a maul stick, but oftentimes I'll just kind of balance one hand on the other just to get a little bit more details. I'm trying not to stick my head forward to block the camera for you guys, but sometimes it's going to happen. And oftentimes people will be like, oh, you have to have really good eyesight or a very steady hand to do this. And you do, but at the same time, not as much as you think you do. You're really just putting a little bit of dots where you need those highlights. So I've got those jewels basically set into their settings. I do want to go ahead and do some of the blue, the highlights on the blue. So I'm going to go ahead and switch my color around a little bit to get more of a cool tone here. And picking up a new brush here. So we've got some of this cool blue here. And I'm going to go down to look at this jewel down here. And so we've got areas where it's a very strong highlight, and then areas where it's much more muted. So we have to kind of allow for those changes. So going a little bit lighter on areas that need it. And it's a little bit more intense that I need. I may tone it back down a little bit later. Actually, let me do that right now. I'll just tone it down with some of the. Get a little bit more of the lighter blue over here. If you can give it a little bit of a gradient, that's good, because that'll make it not quite as sharp, not quite as fake. You know, he was really Van Eyck was really into the whole, I'm trying to replicate reality here. So being able to go in and make it look just like the real thing was a key feature of what he was doing. So I've added a little bit more dimension to that. Now I'm going to go in with some of the stronger, brighter, whiter highlights to get these set in. Van Eyck was a keen observer of how light worked way before his time. And if you want to understand that better, doing master studies of these is a great thing to do. You're going to learn, you will learn a lot. I think I'm going to call this for today. I hope you enjoyed. I think I'm, obviously with the original, you can, there's a lot going on in there. You can really see quite a lot of detail. Am I going to go quite that crazy? Probably not. I may call this done. And so I hope you enjoyed this, and I will be doing other miniature studies as well that I will be posting. So I hope you enjoy this, and I will talk to you next time.